Well, I support what President Trump's trying to do. And, with the Gates pick, it's the only thing that surprises me is people being surprised. I mean, he's responding to the DOJ in the same way that they took him on over the last few years. But perhaps more importantly is the inclusion of people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and bringing them into the fold. I think those are the most amazing ones that we're going to see the best results from.
Did any of the picks so far surprise you?
Not yet. And you know what? I think we're going to see a whole new look and a whole new series of processes that are creative and hopefully impactful in a positive way for America.
What do you expect from these confirmation hearings?
Well, again, I don't know exactly how that's going to unfold. There's been some talks about some picks being done with a time of recess, which could alter that whole process. My understanding is it's simple majority for most of these picks in terms of the confirmations, and so that means that Republicans should be in a position to where they can control that. So, but it's all a legitimate part of the process, the transparency, and I think that it's time for a change, and we're taking that on.
One more question about Gates before I move on. Dick Durbin, the senator from Illinois, is calling on the House Ethics Committee to share and make public that report on their investigation. What are you hearing from your colleagues in the House of the likelihood that will happen?
I don't know the answer. However, I do know that by House rule, you've got to be, or you're supposed to be a member before that gets released. So we'll let the leadership teams fight that out on how that works. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to see some positive results.
Tax policy, you just heard from one of your fellow Republicans in Washington talking about the GOP's priorities moving forward. What would you like to see, or do you anticipate first actions to be out of your party in the new Congress and Senate?
Well, we've got the President's Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which has got to be addressed, or else there's going to be a massive tax increase across the country. And so I think that's going to be right up there. I've got my own bill called the KEEP Act that would remove federal income tax on overtime pay. And so we're definitely pushing for that. We're going to get some airtime there. The President has talked about no tax on tips. And so I think that with the combination of all of those, possibly even some reform on how Social Security is taxed. Those are all things that are going to wind up putting more money in the pockets of Americans. And that's where, frankly, we want it. We'd rather have Americans being in charge of distributing and reinvesting and spending as opposed to government doing it.
And specific to your plan to eliminate taxes on overtime pay, how would you pay for that?
Well, we've got, remember, this is the payroll taxes are not included with that. So your Medicare, your Social Security is not touched with that. And any of the dollars that are lost as a result of not collecting it off federal income tax is going to be recouped by more of that money being pumped back in because you've got more work and you've got more wealth. And so we think that gets more than offset. And I think that we're going to get some good results as a function of that and encourage work instead of government programs.
You are celebrating that victory lap, as we said just a moment ago, but confidence in Congress is at an all-time low, and it's been divisive over the last several years. What do you say to the American public as you get ready to do this important work in Washington about unity and how both sides find some common ground moving forward?
You know, there's some of us remember the Reagan administration when Ronald Reagan came into power, and there was just kind of an intangible, this confidence that kind of got adopted by most Americans. I get that same sense with the Trump administration coming in. Now, we can all argue how popular he is and how well he's liked and whatnot, but you have to admit that he brings with him some confidence with some economic growth around the corner. And so with those changes, you know, economies are funny things, and they work off confidence, they work off intangibles, and I think that we've got some ingredients now with this change that's going to be very, very positive.
And finally, we saw an image there of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Does he have the full support of your caucus to remain in his leadership role? Do you see any challenge to that?
Yesterday, he got a unanimous vote of support from everyone to be the speaker designee. Now, that said, on January 3, expect some sparks and expect some controversy. But the reason behind that will be to make sure that everyone is comfortable with the House rules. It's not over Mike Johnson specifically, but you'll probably see some sparks fly on January 3. But that's the reason why it's a negotiation session, if you will, to make sure that the rest of the House rules are in line with what everybody wants.
And thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.